Kevin is much more interested than most people, by the way, in the balance sheet.
And the balance sheet is exactly what we have to talk about when we talk about Lucid today, because Lucid had a really incredible partnership announcement, and it's a multi-way partnership announcement, which is a game changer for not just Lucid, but also the Neuro AI company they're partnering with. We'll talk about them and some of their history in just a moment. But you've got to know whose backs they're leveraging off of, and let's just say the company rhymes with Nvidia. And we'll briefly talk about Uber as well. So just so you know, quickly overview what happened. There was an announcement where Uber said they will buy 20,000 Lucid Gravity SUVs. These are the larger SUVs from Lucid. They only sold 3 in the last quarter. So this is pretty exciting that they're announcing this 20,000 or more Lucid vehicles. But in order to be useful to Uber, Uber wants these Lucid vehicles to be equipped with the Neuro Driver AI platform over the next 6 years, beginning deployment next year in 2026. Obviously, 6 years is an insanely long run rate. 20,000 vehicles over 6 years only works out to about 3,300. That's not really the big deal here. And we're going to break down where the big winner is in all of this. But I will say, this is great news for the Lucid Gravity, which is really your competitor to, I would argue, the Model X, maybe the extended version of the Model Y, where you could fit 7 folks inside of it. I always question how much trunk space you actually really have in this Lucid SUV. They show this photo here. I doubt it. I have the Model X, which I think is a direct competitor to this, and there's almost no space when you have 7 seats in there. Point is, for a robotaxi, at least the 5-seat version is perfect because it gives you the spacious, functional vehicle people could then use trunk space in for their baggage, go into airports or whatever. It's basically a great robotaxi vehicle. One of the reasons Lucid is desirable, though, is because they manufacture their vehicles in Arizona. So it's made in the USA by a US company. Now, yes, they've got massive investments from the Saudis, and they want the next big development facility to be in Saudi Arabia, which is fine, but Lucid has really been dying, at least as a stock, and this is the breath of life that Lucid really needs. When we talk about the balance sheet and its ability to survive, they have some ability to survive, but it's not great. Right now, if you look at their cash flow statement, they're burning about $600 million per quarter. You can see here, 3 months ending Q1, we burned $428 in operating activities and another $161 in plant property equipment expenditures. That puts us at roughly $600 mil. If we remove our current assets from the balance sheet, or our current liabilities rather, from the balance sheet, in other words, the bills that we need to pay, and we remove that from the cash we have, we've got about a year of cash available. So Lucid desperately needs this partnership. Anything to get more Lucid cars to sell and more of a streamlined pipeline for the 3,000 cars or whatever that they sell in a period of time is very, very important. For Lucid's stock, this is fantastic in the short term. We'll talk about what Lucid likely has to do soon, as in the second quarter, I got the exact number here, in the second quarter, Lucid delivered just 3,300 vehicles. So this Uber partnership really enables you to say, hey, our quarterly total vehicle deliveries, Uber is basically adding on an annual basis for us, which is great. So it's a nice boost. It keeps those production lines moving, and it lets them integrate with this potential self-driving platform, Neuro AI, which we have to talk about because it's all about Nvidia. But let's take a brief moment and look at the Lucid stock. So Lucid stock is being rumored to go through a reverse, a 1-to-10 split, which basically means for every 10 shares you own of this, you'll get 1 share, which would just multiply the stock price by 10. The reason they want to do this is because, frankly, being a penny stock and looking like this on a chart basis doesn't look fantastic. This stock has been bleeding out since interest rates moved up and has really been suffering. Today, it's up 45%, which is great. $10 billion company compared to Rivian's $14 billion. Now, this does create somewhat of a ceiling for Lucid, because if you look at Rivian, you actually find that they've just gone gross profitable on their vehicles. Their service revenues are supporting cash flows of the business. And Rivian's becoming a more sustainable business with substantially more deliveries than Lucid's. But Rivian's only trading for $14 billion. So either Rivian is trading way too low or Lucid's going to hit some resistance here really soon. Two things really worth mentioning quickly on today's stock market moves. This morning, in our alpha report, before the market opened up and in my video, I said this morning's data could easily unlock bullishness as long as we hold 557.20 on the Qs. Look at this, folks. I wrote that before the market opened to all my course members. Meetkevin.com. You could join. You pay once. You get lifetime access. Use coupon code Mr. Look at this. We bounced within 1 penny of exactly where I said, and we were off to the races from there. Okay. Second thing that I said, which is remarkable because Open Door, I've been talking about it since it was 60-ish cents. I said Open Door, $2 stock because it's done this so many times before. And so I made a note about Open Door this morning because it was up like 30-40% this morning. Take a look at what I wrote. I actually wrote the following, and you could verify this in the, like all my course member live streams are archived, and you can see this. So I wrote, there's talk about a reverse split with it. When we were at 60 cents, we talked about $2. This morning, when we were talking about it, it was at $2.20. And I said, this gets a bit wild above this level. So I'd consider trailing stops at your preference, possibly consider -10, -20%, depending on what you want, or you could go tighter, right? But the whole point is like, Open Door is a volatile stock, but we're starting to get a little toppy here where you kind of have to start asking yourself like, how much longer is this going to keep going on? We wrote that when it was $2.20 this morning. So we called it from 60 cents all the way to $2. And now you can see it's still up 14% on the day. But from when we wrote this, it's down from that 220 when we wrote and published this down to about 170. So those trailing stops could have really maximized profit for somebody. So if you want these alpha reports, I can't guarantee they're always going to be right or perfect. Again, we've had some really amazing hits here. But you really ought to consider checking it out over at meetkevin.com and using that coupon code. Another one that I pitched as well this morning in the alpha report, mostly because the retail sales data was Affirm, which is now knocking on $70, which is pretty exciting. This is that meetkevin.com website. Remember, if you get the Meet Kevin membership, you pay once, you get all 8 courses, trade alerts, private live stream, alpha report. We got a bunch of trade alerts coming out later this month, probably starting next week, which is exciting. You get access to all the courses, stock psychology of money, 0 to millionaire real estate investing, sales, psychology, property management, rental renovation, social media, productivity with AI, Trumponomics. Got a lot coming out, by the way, in this now that the big beautiful bill is passed. A lot of new content coming out for this soon as well. Just remember to use coupon code Mr.TooLate before the price goes up. It is arguable that Rivian is trading for way too low, and it's just a matter of time for an AI company to partner with Rivian and go, hey, we'll employ our full stack self-driving software into Rivian's and basically do the same Lucid style partnership except with Rivian's. I actually think Rivian's would be great for this. The thing is, right now, a heavy focus for them is selling to consumers, whereas I think Lucid is kind of like, it's hard for us to sell to consumers. We're trying. We're only selling 3,000. We basically just need to whore ourselves out to fleet sales. Take a look at this. Rivian is guiding 40 to 46,000 vehicles for 2025, which Lucid's going to be under 15,000. So you're doing 3 times as many vehicles at Rivian. Rivian's cash and cash equivalents of $4.6 billion. I've got $2.5 billion of short-term investments. I'll just take out all of their current liabilities, including their deferreds. If I take out all of their current liabilities, I'm down to about 4.3. I divide that by the 500 burn. I've got about 2.25 years of cash flow. So I've got much, or cash available for cash burn. I've got more than twice the runway at Rivian, and the stock's only about 40% more expensive. Now look at the revenues over here. This is where it gets interesting. On the revenue side, we've got 922 million of automotive revenues, software revenues at 318, total revs at 1.2 bill. We actually have gross profit. So our costs of goods sold were only a bill. This is a huge flip for Rivian, who previously has always been upside down. And they finally flipped in their most recent earnings reports to where they're actually gross profitable. This is why when you compare as car companies, Rivian and Lucid, Rivian blows Lucid out of the water, balance sheet wise, revenue size wise, scale wise, 3 times as many deliveries. This would be a great future potential autonomous partnership. But they're not exploding today because they don't have the benefit of the enthusiasm, the reverse stock split, and this AI announcement. I personally think that Lucid has a shot in this reverse split, staying at today's prices, of potentially running up to about $6. I think then Lucid would be really smart to raise as much money as possible. Basically pull an MP material. The stock moves up on some form of news of partnership, and then you print stock to raise money and actually increase and fortify your balance sheet. You need more than a 1-year run rate. That does mean the momentum could suddenly stop for Lucid, but in the short term, this is great news for Lucid. Now, let's understand the AI partnership that they've got going on. They've partnered with this company called Neuro AI. Neuro AI never used to actually do AI vehicles, like robotaxi vehicles. In fact, they started as a delivery robot company. So think about like those Deliveroos that deliver food, restaurant orders or whatever. Neuro AI, in just the last 2 years, roughly about the last year and a half, decided to adopt the Nvidia autonomous vehicle platform, the Orin Drive platform, the Thor platform, and they use Nvidia for all of their ADAS technology, which is interesting because it kind of makes you wonder, like, what are the actual startup costs for an AI, robotaxi company to start working with cameras, radars, and LiDARs? Well, not much if you're just going to brand a beautiful website about how, hey, look, we could do all this self-driving technology, but you're really just leveraging off of AI software stack over at Nvidia. And that's what I think is so interesting, is that Nvidia actually pitches this announcement with Neuro because it's great for Nvidia. And that's what I really think, is that here's a company that used to do these smaller delivery vehicles, which I'll show you a video of in just a moment here, and they've transformed into an autonomous vehicle platform. How? Simply by adopting the NVIDIA platform. Here's what they used to have. This is an older video of their autonomous little delivery vehicle right here. There it is in Palo Alto. This is their claim to fame, is they could deliver these, food or packages or whatever. They could deliver these little vehicles with packages inside of them wherever autonomously as electric vehicles, zero emissions, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's cool, but their transition to vehicles is very recent and new. They've only been doing this for about a year and a half. They don't really hold a candle, in my opinion, to the technology stack that you've got going on, even frankly at Volkswagen and the tech experiences that they're building out with robotaxis in Hamburg, Germany, Hamburg, Deutschland, or obviously to Tesla. Though Tesla, when it started, it used NVIDIA chips and NVIDIA software stack as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if still today they use NVIDIA simulation models, and then they go test with the non-NVIDIA simulation models by just using Tesla's neural net directly. That said, I am a little bit skeptical how much Neuro is really going to be able to aid Lucid, but the announcement is really exciting because really what you've got is Uber saying, we're going to give $300 million to enable Neuro to be installed in Gravity Lucids. Then we're going to buy at least 20,000 Gravities that we're going to operate ourselves, which means Uber kind of now owns the cars as well. That's kind of a bit of a competitor, if you think about it, to Tesla. Tesla wants to own the cars as well. And now you're going to this place where Tesla wants to own the stack, and Uber's like, hey, you know what? We want to be owning this stack as well. So you're starting to see the big companies are saying, you know what? We need to partner with manufacturers, and we're going to own the cars. Google partners with Toyota, which is a huge partnership for the Waymo deal. You've got Volkswagen developing their own robotaxi, stack essentially. Now you've got Lucid partnering with Neuro. It's just a matter of time for Rivian to partner with somebody. So this is kind of big news also for Rivian because they'll partner with somebody soon as well. I do question how much actual technology is at this Neuro AI company. Frankly, Neuro AI, if you look at their YouTube channel, really what they did is they spent, and you could look at the history of the company as well, they spent years trying to pitch how great their delivery product was, and a lot of it seemed to be to raise money. Here's Neuro. We're helping heroes during COVID-19. We have a touchless delivery service or whatever. Everything seemed to be built around marketing this company as something that venture capitalists should invest into. And now you never hear about their delivery robots anymore. Instead, they're like, why don't we just plug in NVIDIA's AI software stack, partner, here's the partnership announcement from a year ago. Let's just flip to doing cars from March 18th, 24. Let's just flip to doing cars in a similar way as we were doing the delivery service, and we'll just use NVIDIA's platform, which NVIDIA's platform keeps growing. They just announced the Halo system, which is really combining everything that NVIDIA has. The cloud infrastructure, which NVIDIA will license you the opportunity to use their servers to, essentially build out your robotaxi stack. They'll sell you the systems on chips that you could plug into your actual cars, and they'll sell you everything you need to basically connect the two, going from car to server and back and forth. However, all the compute you need, NVIDIA will sell you. So this is why I actually think NVIDIA is a big winner in this, because it shows you that if you want to catch up really fast in autonomous vehicles, you just need NVIDIA in your life. Now, what's fascinating too is if you go to the Wall Street Journal, there's an op-ed here by Aaron Ginn. He's got some kind of like platform or whatever that he works for where they enable businesses to monetize unused GPUs and CPUs called Hydra platforms. Anyway, he wrote an op-ed this morning in the Wall Street Journal. And they actually say that, we should be excited about NVIDIA going to China and Jensen Huang talking up Huawei or talking up how Chinese is his first language, because really what you want is you want everybody building on CUDA because it's a benefit to American manufacturing. The more we have American companies and not like companies like Huawei or Sony or Samsung or whatever building, the more we have NVIDIA as the core that's being built on, the better it is for America, and frankly, the better it is for NVIDIA. And I think this is a fantastic point of view, and I link it really well to this Neuro-Lucid partnership because I don't really care about Uber owning some of the cars themselves. I think Uber's a little bit of a whore at this point where they kind of just have to partner with everybody because that's the point. Like Uber wants to be in a place where when you open up that app, you know you're going to get a car fast. You know you're going to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. You don't care what the car looks like. You just want to get in and have a comfortable experience. You don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to be in a stinky car. You don't want a bad, aggressive driver. You don't want a driver who's cracking the windows, not running the AC because, they want to cheap out and save a couple cents on gas between your point A to point B commute. Instead, you want a robotaxi. Like that is going to be the future. But for all of these vehicle companies to catch up, you've really got to get to a point where you say, hey, we're going to catch up by adopting the NVIDIA Drive platform, and that's how we're going to end up competing with Tesla. That's the only way you can really compete with Tesla. You have a duopoly right now. You have Tesla and you have NVIDIA. And NVIDIA is really just the umbrella for everybody else. So people are getting excited about this talk about, hey, Lucid is going to do robotaxis. But understand what's actually enabling that is an AI company that just basically rebranded itself to doing cars from delivery robots after the delivery robots basically failed, because if it was a big success, they would still be doing it and still talking about it, which they don't talk about it at all anymore. So obviously that failed. So they flip-flop. How did they flip-flop? NVIDIA. Once again, NVIDIA wins. And that's why I say, like, it's only a matter of time for someone like a Rivian to also partner in this. So short-term momentum, Lucid, great. Like, it'll probably keep going. Do they need to fundraise? Absolutely. So is there a potential downside there? 100%. But in the near term, don't turn a blind eye to the potential of Rivian being a cheap play in this market. I'm not trying to shill Rivian because I'm like all in on Rivian or whatever. I don't even think I own a single Rivian stock. I'm just saying this is Nvidia first, but every car company is eventually going to follow this path. The only thing that's interesting out of all of it to me is Uber buying their own cars, actually trying to say, hey, we don't just need to partner with every other company. We're also going to own our own cars. That's interesting because it does a few things for a company like Uber. One, you could probably take advantage of Donald Trump's 100% bonus depreciation and just write off all these cars for use in business. In fact, I wonder what the Lucid Gravity weight is. Lucid Gravity weight. Yeah, 6,050 pounds. I'm pretty sure the 179 deduction triggers after 6,000 pounds. And it's literally 6,050 pounds. What a surprise why they went for the SUV. Uber's looking for a tax write-off against all the money they make. So let's just go buy some of our existing fleet so we could get some tax deductions. Man, that's actually kind of brilliant. So again, overall, put all the pieces of the puzzle together. You've got Uber trying to be that top of mind app. You open up the app, you're going to get a ride. Do you really care if it's a Waymo? Do you really care if it's got 1 million LiDAR beams going everywhere? No. You just want to get from point A to point B in reasonable safety and comfort without having to worry about some knucklehead driver. Great. Uber wins here. Uber gets its extra tax deduction by buying these and making an investment into Lucid. And honestly, they know the stock's going to pump anyway after their investment. So it's like they probably just paid for all their Gravity cars anyway via the investments they probably made into Lucid. So that's that. Then you look at this Neuro AI company. To me, I see it really as just a shell or like a wrapper around Nvidia. Think about Nvidia as the OpenAI, except there's like no competition to it. I mean, AMD to some extent, but no, doesn't really hold a candle to Nvidia. And then Neuro AI is just sort of a little wrapper on top of it. And then do also consider that the more Lucid momentum's up, the more desirable it is for them to raise money because they're running out of it. They've got a year of run rate left, although the Saudis will probably bail them out if they worst case have to. And number two, it probably pumps up Rivian because it's just a matter of time before they partner with somebody as well in this space. All of it, by the way, is not great for Tesla, right? If you put all of this information together, it all kind of hurts Tesla. The more Nvidia does well in expanding these partnerships, the more Tesla has a competitor. Remember, it's Tesla and Nvidia. And the more Nvidia expands, the more it hurts Tesla. The more Tesla I hate to say it, but doesn't manufacture new models of vehicles, the more Tesla falls a little behind on the consumer preference standards. I tweeted yesterday, I thought this was really cool. I tweeted this. This is exactly what we want, Tesla. Make great cars, many of them. And here's somebody named Dan who says, I need a Tesla van ASAP, something with 7 to 8 seats and storage room, because the X doesn't have the storage room part. And they sort of mocked this up. And I'm like, yes. Like, why don't we have more choices like this? Tesla should be milking that while working their AI projects. Like, you don't have to go all in autonomous, which Elon is doing. And because he's going all in autonomous, he is losing that consumer side a little bit, which basically means it's Tesla versus Nvidia on the AI side. Okay, well, Nvidia doesn't give a flying F if vision wins or LiDAR wins. Does not matter at all. If LiDAR wins, Tesla loses. If LiDAR loses, Nvidia still wins because they'll just use all their software stack for camera technology and licensing it to all these other partners. So I think this is sort of it's something we've been talking about for the last few years, but not a lot of people actually look at NVIDIA as being a big game changer for autonomous vehicles. And the circular thing about NVIDIA is the more people license NVIDIA for autonomous vehicles, the more compute they're going to be doing anyway to train their own vehicles, which is just circular to selling more GPUs and then more companies announcing more partnerships with Nvidia for their cars, or wrappers like Neuro, just leads to more companies wanting Nvidia and again, more GPU. Like, it's this crazy flywheel that you have going on at Nvidia that's really, really powerful.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.